Welcome to INFINTECH, where decision makers connect. INFINTECH is organized by Logate, your painless vendor for digital journey, in partnership with Mastercard, empowering connections, shaping tomorrow.
On behalf of the Central Bank of Montenegro, I'm delighted that today I have the opportunity to share nice news and very efficient endeavors that the countries within the region are implementing when it comes to regional instant payment. Namely, today we are living in the world where 106 countries already have instant payments. Unfortunately, in the region, apart from Serbia, none of the countries have that feature. In that regard, today we saw and we analyzed a lot of very modern ideas, but as a regulator, I believe, as I said in today's introductory note, we really need to start from the basics. And basics means we need to provide to users a cutting-edge pan-European infrastructures. In that regard, TIPS clone came as a brilliant idea and a brilliant initiative of the region. Where we were when it comes to cross-border fees, we need to be very transparent. They were the highest within the European continent. B2B, in order to, for example, send 20,000 euros from Montenegro to company in North Macedonia, it would take us 1.4% of the value of those funds. In order to send 5,000, it would take us 1.1%. I believe that although they are similarly small as Montenegro, in the case of Kosovo, things were somewhat better. According to the World Bank data, those costs would reach around 0.18, i.e. 0.38% of the value, but still we are talking about very, very high fees. In today's world, where we are faced with the fact that stable coins are breaching the interoperability across the countries, I believe that for us as regulators was, I would say, a duty and an obligation to create, I would say, an efficient cross-border instant payment scheme that would serve not solely our domestic payment system, but would have a potential for interconnectivity. In that regard, I would say that our inspirations were Nordic P27, Asian payment connectivity, and of course RT1. And in that regard, we said why we should not approach to the European Central Bank and request clone, i.e. usage of their instant payment system. Of course, at the first we were rejected. However, after, I would say, months and months, Lumni, correct me, but I believe there were months of negotiation. At the end, they figured out that we should be a very, very nice pilot for potential tomorrow's expansion of TIPS to even larger markets. So here we are in June 2024, ECB approved TIPS clone deployment. In that regard, Banca d'Italia, one of the operators, overtook this task. They were the institution, in fact they are the institution who will be in charge in settlement of the transaction and the precise cloning of the TIPS. While countries one by one join. Today, there are 5 countries in the region: Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. So in that aspect, from the structure per se, you can tell that we can already announce that on 20th of July 2026, we will be facing you can expect a new payment system, agile, cutting edge, fully copied TIPS clone, i.e. where the payments will be in real time processed in the matter of 10 seconds. So, however, our aspiration doesn't end there. In 2027, we will be layering those services by adding a regional cross-border instant feature. At the moment, negotiations are not solely relying on one leg out, but on infrastructural adjustments within the Banca d'Italia that would allow cross-border features and cross-border payments among our countries. I will not dwell too much on the benefits. I think that we are very much aware of it. In the context of Montenegro, TIPS clone and SEPA together can have the impact of 160 million euros in GDP, i.e. 2.3% of the GDP from 2024, or just to put it more bluntly, only SEPA and TIPS clone, in the case of Montenegro, can narrow the income gap between Montenegro and average EU countries by 10 percentage points over the decade. So I believe that it speaks volumes how powerful are these two tools, and it is now up to the regulator and up to the banks to work on it and maximize its potential. I will now ask my dear colleague Lumni to tell something about their experience when it comes to implementation of TIPS clone in Kosovo and whether you already measured the benefits.
Thank you, Zorica. I think that as a central bank, we are facing many challenges these years. And new technology is changing the way that how we can live, how we can get services, and how we are going to pay services. So it's something that we as a central banks, we need to take care and to take our measures to ensure stability, to ensure security and efficiency for all participants in the market. So due to our commitment as regional countries and due to the technology, we give it the space to the new actors in the market. We give space to the non-bank payment service providers, electronic money institutions, and other digital services. But yet, cash is still the main actor in so cash is dominating in market. And most of the digital transactions are based on the cards. But even the cards are growing every year. We see that how to say cards are increasing, but they are facing different challenges in the market. For example, as a lack of the switching center, local switching center, or delay on settlement process, or lack of interoperability with other digital services. These are elements that we push us to think about instant payments. Instant payment as an infrastructure which will allow to process transaction, account-to-account transaction in real time. And as well to give much more interoperability with other services, digital services. So it's something that now, with the support of European Commission, as a region, we are implementing this system. And we are going to implement next year, I hope, to go live and to push other services to be developed and to start to make payment on the digital way. So it's something that.
Excellent. So in that regard, I would say that we both share the same challenges apart from the benefits that definitely we're going to reap. Not solely we, but I here want to highlight a very, very active and very demanding agenda when it comes to, I would say, technical adjustments that the banks need to endure. In that regard, I believe that similarly in Kosovo as well in Montenegro, definitely we are talking about infrastructural adjustment that should assure a processing of transactions within the frame of 10 seconds, then creation of I would say, underlying messages based on SET instant scheme. Here I'm highlighting, of course, PAX 008 and PAX 002, who is a member of SEPA. They are very much familiar on them. When it comes to IBAN transition, I believe that that is one very, very important part on which I will dwell a bit later. That is that in the context of Montenegrin market will be an enormous impediment together with secure connectivity, where definitely the banks should assure connectivity according to target standards. So in that aspect, of course, changes the banks need to endure relates to, I would say, real-time liquidity monitoring, pre-funding. We are now talking about real-time transactions, and in that regard, banks need to, I would say, be ready in time. We as a central bank, I believe on the 1st of October, have sent a questionnaire to the banks where each of them some of them already returned replies, and the rest will be filling their views on their technical requirements, and based on which we will make a strategic decision whether we are going for big bang approach, i.e. requesting from all the banks to be ready by July 2026, or we will focus on front runners and leave some space for those who are, I would say, who need a bit more time. However, we need to be very clear, those late bloomers will have a certain adverse effect when it comes to, I would say, their competitive position in the markets. In that regard, definitely when it comes to adjustments of the banks, definitely IBAN integration is the most difficult adjustment that needs to happen in the context of Montenegro. In that regard, I would like just to hear your views, whether you still have two accounts, BBAN and IBAN, or solely one account.
No, in our case, we have implemented BBAN as a identification number for the bank consumers, and after that we just joined the country code on that, and everything was done. We have now IBAN as a standard. I think near to 15 years ago, all banks are using IBAN as a standard. Even for the local payment system, we are using IBAN now, but in previous infrastructure that we have had, we have used the BBAN as an identification number. But I just wanted to emphasize that SEPA and implementing instant payment are somehow linked as projects, because implementing, for example, technical SEPA criteria regarding standard of messages. Now this standard that we have done during the process of the SEPA can serve for us for implementing TIPS as infrastructure, because the infrastructure of the TIPS will use ISO 20 or 22 standard, and since our banks will be familiar with this standard of message, it will be much more easy for them to communicate with TIPS infrastructure. So it's
excellent. So you're in a somewhat, I would say, easier position, given that we in Montenegro still rely on infrastructure on two accounts. So indefinitely we will use a converter for this interim period. But I believe that the banks now can see that here I put November 2028 as a deadline where we definitely gonna have a full-fledged IBAN in production, given that we are very much aware of all the adjustment that needs to be done within the processes and within the bank's infrastructures in order to, I would say, to migrate to one account. When it comes to strategic outlook, I believe that I have already annotated that our general assumption is that by July 20th, our domestic payment system will migrate to TIPS clone. What we are pondering now, whether whether the limits, at least in the context of Montenegro, would be at the level of around 15,000 euros, given the IML checks and fraud checks complexities related to this figure. Although I would love to wish that by that time all the banks would I would say, implement and integrate real-time fraud checks. I have to admit that this is a very, very tedious and very strenuous process for the banks, given that July 2026 is just around the corner. But I believe that all our countries are, when it comes to perspective of TIPS clone, are pursuing the idea of interoperability within the 2027. And once when we enter within the EU, hopefully Montenegro in 2028, we will have all prerequisites just to immediately migrate to the original TIPS. When it comes to the topic of overlay services, today we were talking about digitalization. We talked how about the mindset. I think that we really need to be realistic. I will give you just a few figures. We are talking about KYC, onboarding, etc. In the same vein, at least in Montenegro, we have faced the situation that out of those companies who have mobile and internet banking, bank by bank, the time span in the last 90 days, those companies, in most cases, only between 5 to 40% of those who are having the ability use digital channels to execute the payment. So we are talking about a very, very hard work ahead of us, both on the side of the banks and the general public. Here as well, we are talking about regulators. There is enormous work that we as a regulator that need to do in that regard. I'm a big believer that supply can create a demand, so definitely the public administration should play a very, very important role as well. And in that aspect, I believe that through the overlay services that the central banks within TIPS clone will be providing would, I would say, create additional layer of, I would say, digital channels and customer and easy customer user. When it comes to Montenegro, we are still pondering which overlay services will we be providing, but definitely verification of pay, QR code, NFC, and request to pay are a must. And with that, what we want to achieve is, I believe that I said this in my morning's key speech, that we need to assure that by the 2030, the number of electronically executed transactions is equal to those in cash. Maybe we are modest. I would like to be overly ambitious, but we as well need to live in a reality of empirical evidence. Figures that I have just said to you, out of 85% of those who have the right to have the account, only 59% of those are women who made digital payments. 64% when we are talking about males, so there is an enormous gap that needs to be filled. And in that aspect, I would say that the role of the regulator is paramount. Would you agree with me, Lumni? What is the position of Kosovo?
Yes, of course. Having in place instant payment infrastructure, we are providing only the core infrastructure for the instant transactions. After that, it's up to the industry, to the payment service providers to provide digital services for their clients So it's our, as a central banks, is to put in place standards regarding QR code and other issues. So it's something that we need to discuss, I think that internally, but as the region countries, how we can implement this kind of services. I think that having in mind that we have close cooperation between our citizens. They are moving every week and during the summertime. And we need to have services which are much more interoperable between our countries. So having in place one common infrastructure for all countries will be very good, very good for us, because even it will enable services between our countries. It as well help us to integrate our infrastructure with EU infrastructure, such as European Payment Initiative, such as wallet, digital wallet application there. So it's something that if we deal together to have in place one central infrastructure for this kind of services, we will help our community and our businesses. So it's something that the role of central bank in this part is very, very important. So I don't know. We need to prepare our legal framework for the instant payment infrastructure, to have a rule book, and as well to manage the risk regarding fraud and other security risks. So it's something that the central bank is having here a big role. So I think that with the regional cooperation and with the support of EU, we as the central banks can ensure a transposition of payment services in our country to the instant and interoperable services. So it's something that will bring benefits to our clients and to our businesses.
Excellent. So to sum it up, I believe that we are really the testimony how the region can work together in order to create and to be the part of pan-European infrastructures. We will still potentially daydream, but maybe that dream can become a reality, that even overlay services can become interoperable in our region. So we are as well pondering the idea of having the same vendor for the whole region. But I believe that for both of our central banks, when it comes to payment services, we can say that with payment services is as with Alice in the Wonderland, you need to do all the running that you can do in order to stay in the same place. So on our end, I believe that both of our banks are not as fast as Usain Bolt, but that we are really doing our best to assure to the citizens sufficient payment system, which is at the very end in the core of our mandates. Thank you.